went to see my uncle, and my uncle took me in. First, he had me collecting money because he was a loan shark. So he put me with one of his guys who also happened to be the driver for Carlo Gambino. And my uncle said, don't worry, this guy will take care of you. Some guy owed my uncle money. We kidnapped him. We threw him in an apartment. Uncle, he said to me, you and I are going to make a lot of money together. And we opened a restaurant there. Opened it. We bought it or took it from somebody, if I remember back in my childhood. It was called Alice's Restaurant. And then we went into nightclubs, and we opened about 4 or 5 nightclubs that became very big, and we were doing really well.
On Saturday, August 1st, 1959, the Staten Island Advance published an exclusive front-page interview with Joseph Riccobono just days after his release from City Civil Prison. Speaking from his West Brighton home, Riccobone broke his year-long silence to push back against accusations linking him to the notorious Apalachin meeting. In a calm but emotional tone, he recounted his version of events, one rooted in friendship, not conspiracy. Here is the article in full. Here's the story that Joseph Riccobono tells today in his West Brighton home. The story he kept to himself for almost a full year and spent 50 weeks in jail because he did. It is a story that was declared responsive enough as an explanation. It is the story of a man's concern for an ailing friend and his willingness to share the pleasure of a trip upstate in a spirit of commiseration and good fellowship. It is a story which Riccobone says is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Riccobone, 2 days out of City Civil Prison, is a tall, slender, slightly bent man who roams like a stranger through the comfortably furnished 1-story brick home at 781 Pelton Avenue, trying to orient myself. He is a man who at 65 is balding and grey. He cocks his right hand behind his ear to hear you because, he says, he is slowly going deaf. He is a man whose lower lip trembles when he talks. He places his index fingers straight up above each ear and says, with a warm, disarming smile, "Well, do I look like you expected me to look? Is this what you expect? This is the way I have been pictured." Riccobone tells you he isn't mad at anybody, bears no grudge for anyone, even the State Investigations Commission and its counsel, who have appealed the ruling that freed him and made it necessary for him to post a $10,000 bond in order to walk out of jail. The picture which has been created of him, Riccobone says, is all wrong. On the contrary, on November 12, 1957, he was just another commuter on his way to work in Brooklyn, where he owns 2 dress shops. He was a man who was deeply concerned over the health of a sick friend. The sick friend is Carlo Gambino, later identified by the Commission as another Apalachinite. Here's how Riccobone tells it. "I was on my way to work, and I decided to do what I used to do often. Visit Carl Gambino, a very sick fellow. Carl had a heart condition, and I used to drop in to see him a lot, especially when he wasn't feeling well. On this day, I found him packing a suitcase. He told me he was going to a party upstate with a friend of his. He said he was feeling pretty good. His only motive was to join Gambino at the party, he says. Gambino told him there would be other friends making the trip. Riccobone did not travel with Gambino. There were 2 cars, he says. He rode in one, Gambino in the other. They stayed overnight at different motels, then met again the next day at the Barbara estate. And that, says Riccobone, is how he happened to be there when the troopers closed in." Asked why he hadn't told the story to the Investigations Commission earlier, Riccobone replied, "When we are in trouble, it's like when we are sick. We take our advice from the doctor." Riccobone is concerned about his wife, Peggy, who also is a heart sufferer, he says. The months he was away, he says, were harder on her than they were on me. He says every time she reads harsh things about him, she dies. He says he is deeply grateful to his West Brighton neighbours, who, he says, have been extremely nice to her, anxious to help. Mrs. Riccobone, who wept for joy on his release, says she still lives with the tension of the months that are now behind. Riccobono too admits to being tense. He says that while everyone treated me wonderful and the food was fair, while he was behind bars, he wouldn't go there for a vacation. He said he whiled away some of his time in jail doing a little gardening. "Do you know, Peg," he called to his wife, "I even raised some basilico, sweet basil, there." He explained that he had tended a box of growing basil on the jailhouse terrace for months and told nearby handball players that he'd charge them $2 every time the ball hit his basil. He never collected. Looking ahead, Riccobono says his heart is in my mouth as he looks toward the outcome of arguments in the fall over the Crime Commission's challenge of the Supreme Court decision to free him. "It would be foolish to say otherwise," he says. Tense as they are, the Riccobonos have not lost their sense of humor. When a telephone rang, Mrs. Riccobono answered it. After a moment, she began smiling, then turned to Riccobono and told him a relative was on the phone. "Joe," she laughed, "he wants to invite you to a party, a barbecue." "Tell him no thanks," grinned Riccobono in reply.